Welcome to another episode of New Normal. My name is Andrew Mayer. I'm the host of this podcast here. This was recorded in May of 2020 with Andrew Prokop. Check the show notes and the links below, and please subscribe.
So welcome back again today to the New Normal. This is the podcast about the situation we're in, communications, working together, and how to continue building and designing great experiences. I'm really excited today. I've got Andrew Prokop, who I think I've had on camera at least 3 times by now, maybe 4. The guy who always told me I'd never want to be on camera, and actually I have a radio voice. Welcome back to this podcast here, Andrew, and I'm really happy to have a moment with you today.
Well, I'm pleased to be here, but you were a little mistaken. I don't have a radio voice. I have a radio face.
I wanted actually you to use that line and not me. Thank you for being here. And the reason I thought reaching out to you, and we just did a short little tidbit a couple of weeks ago of video I haven't even edited yet on storytelling, and you gave me some insights there, and I appreciated that. But I wanted to come back to you right now so quickly because this time, as crazy and unusual and unsettling and all those other things as we find ourselves right now, is a trigger for the things that you've been talking about for, I would guess, going on 20 years or so, of tying pieces of events together, specifically in communication space, taking a piece of information that might want to trigger something else to happen, but make sense of it so it's of some value and added use to the consumer, the person, the business, whoever using it there. And I thought, when is the time better to speak to you, unfortunately, in these times, than it is right now? And I just thought we'd riff on a little bit about what your thoughts are of things you've been writing about, and I gave credit to you on my floating finally of my blog posts in my blog site yesterday. I've watched you for many years and the prolific blogging you've done there, and I've been lagging behind all that. But you've written so much, you've thought so much, you've put so much energy into ideas and efforts and real solutions that are possible out there today. Is 2020, 2021 going to be a heyday of companies saying, oh yeah, that stuff Andrew Prokop was writing 5 years ago is really relevant today?
I do believe that's true. And it's interesting because when you said, I've been doing this for 20 years, and my first thought was, I was just thinking about what I've been doing for the last little bit, virtual agents and artificial intelligence and bots and things. I haven't been doing that for 20 years. But then when you phrase it of really enhancing communication by connecting various components together, it's like, well, I've been doing that for a long time. I mean, I go back to, if you're old like me, remember things like TAPI, telephony API or TSAPI, and we were just connecting voice to something.
That's right.
And now we're connecting experiences with lots of things. So that is true. So thank you for reminding me that I actually have been talking about this since the dawn of time. It has certainly evolved over the last little bit, but the concepts are still the same. We are still connecting digital services to an analog world. So,
I remember back, I think it was 1998, 99. I was working for the same company I work for still today, but had a different name back then. And we were all around a computer screen, and we were waiting to see the first screen pop up in phone call coming in, a screen pop, and data on the screen. Pretty commonplace today, not everywhere, but the technology is very much commonplace today. And back then, we were just amazed that something like that could happen. Although the person was on the phone and it took 30 seconds before the screen came up with the information, that was a bit of a problem back then. But that was the beginning of just trying to create, actions and, adding information to the action and to improve. We didn't call it experiences back in the day. We just thought we were just tying technologies here together. Today, much more the phrase or the concept of building experiences for companies and for users and customers and consumers is very much in the forefront of everyone's mind here. And that's why I thought it makes sense to put you into that kind of context, because that's just what you've been doing.
Well, it's funny because as you were talking, I was thinking that we used to use this phrase, the CEBP, which, as if my memory is correct, it was Communications Enhanced Business Processes. And years ago, when we would talk about that, people would be going like, what? And for actually for a good reason, because we didn't have any good examples. We came up with the term and we came up with the idea before we had any practical solutions. Now clearly we have practical solutions. I mean, just before we even started recording this, we were talking about a number of different scenarios where companies that never thought they needed to connect some kind of a digital service to their business are suddenly realizing, wait a minute, I can't do this the way that I used to do it. I don't have the people anymore. I don't have the physical ability to do what I used to do, second nature. I need something to step in and help me with that. Or I'm going to fail. My business will fail unless I add these capabilities. And again, you don't have to call it CEBP. That was a funny phrase to begin with, but it's really just connecting, again, a digital experience. Again, as I said, the analog to the analog world. We are analog individuals. But if we add the power of the digital experience, then we can do all sorts of things that were just physically impossible to do in the past.
Do you think, I think when CBP, I don't know when, would that have been 2010, 2011, 12, I'm not sure exactly when that term came around.
It's been a while. It is. Yeah. I used it. I used it back when I was at the company formerly known as Nortel, and they've been gone for more than 10 years. So
that's true. That was 2008, 2009. Yeah.
12, 13, 14 years ago.
So I'm wondering if we put it into the timeline of things, we didn't have these things back then. For the most part, right? That was 2006, 7, 8 before they really started the smartphone.
And about 11 years, I think, since the iPhone came out.
Yeah, and now we don't talk about those communication processes, but we love what these things can do. For whether it's something happens and you get a smart notification, you click on the notification and it sends something else out to somebody else. It's just norm, and most people won't even understand how any of that works, right?
Well, honestly, I now get upset if I see a phone number on a screen and I can't touch it and dial it. It's like, I expect these things. I expect to be able to touch that number, or if I see an address, I want to touch that address and I want it to bring up the directions to that address.
Right.
Automatically. It's just my expectation. That's how things have changed.
The one that I mean, the telephone number and clicking it is one. The one that drives me nuts is when I get emails from companies and it's sent from the do not reply at companyabc.com. So that's my part of that same story of saying why are we still doing this today here? But to take it into 2020, so we're recording this middle of May 2020. We're in the middle of at a very unusual period of time. You're in the United States. I live here in Germany. Similar situations around the world here. Companies are faced with challenges. Somewhere. You had the same experience recently where people had to go home and work from home for the first time in their life. So the home workers, the remote workers, is one challenge for many. I was telling you in the pre-show about companies that are now having to take reservations that never had to deal with reservations in their history, like city offices. If you want to go meet somebody and turn in a form, they want you to reserve a time slot so people don't line up in the halls and things like that. How can companies like that, who have blocked themselves from a lot of the digital world when it comes to communications, what should they maybe do, or how should they approach some of these questions? Because my wife works for the public city here, and digital is a different department, basically, right? It's somebody down the hall on the third floor, actually maybe in the basement, is the digital department. Everything else is very analog here. What do companies need to do in order to get there, to get started and saying, we're not going to go back to the old normal very quickly. We need to do things.
Right. Well, that starts with good leadership. The silos that have always existed in the communications world. There has been the side of the company that does the email and does the back end databases and the web pages, and then there's the phone people.
Mm.
Um, and that those walls have to break down. And they are in terms of, because things are becoming virtualized, and so you very rarely need purpose built hardware anymore. You
Right.
put it all on the same Dell or HP server, and it sits next to, you don't know what it's sitting next to.
True.
That's no longer an issue. But the mental walls of that's their work, this is our work, they need to break down. And the only way that can really happen is with at the leadership level, at the C suites. You need to have people
Mm.
that come in that say, we're not going to do business like that anymore. You need to work together because you are together. You are the same thing. And so break those things down. Um, and so that's where it needs to begin. And I also think it needs to begin. Well, I should needs to begin because it is happening. I think the up and coming people that are coming into the industry are already well versed in the digital side. So if you are coming, you are young, schooled, current, present schooling, and you go into some communications space, you are going to be a web programmer. You are going
Right.
to be the kind of person who's very comfortable in the digital space. That was not the case 10, 15, 20 years ago. They were different kinds of people. And so though that has to change, but at the leadership level, it really needs to you need to break those silos apart, and you don't have the telecom department anymore. You have the digital services department, or whatever you want to call it,
Hmm. Hmm.
because it is all the same now.
So you and I both, have been working in industries that very much has been an IT focused subject base. So most of our conversations, maybe not you and I, but including us, but our colleagues, our business partners, those we work with, are very much talking typically, not always or exclusively, at an IT level of things, and that's one of the important silos you're talking about there. And
Mm-hmm.
and one of the points that I've been challenged with is to find methods to get to. I can't break down the silos in my customers' buildings or businesses so much here, and I can't always just end run the IT department. That's not often welcomed to do that, and for good reasons as well. And I feel I don't want to wait until their leadership finally recognizes a necessity. But what I do see, particularly in the last 2 months, our customers are coming out, and I see a lot of this writing on the web, on social media as well, that companies are coming out just desperate to looking for ideas. They're looking for impulses of ways to do things new. They've recognized, who knew it, this internet thing is a real thing, and we're really dependent on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We trust to certain extents the internet there. We trust in web services. We trust in the cloud in certain parts of our businesses here. Yes, we need to focus. I feel this might be a golden moment or an opportunity for companies of whatever size. This could be your small, 8-person business who's doing, installation of devices at locations there, to large enterprises, to say we need to look at things differently. My employees might not all be coming back to my offices again. All right, I can deal with that communication methodology there. My customers might not be coming into my building as much anymore. I might be doing curbside delivery. How do I manage that? How do I communicate with them? How do I find out that they're actually in the queue, the second car, they were supposed to be here in 20 minutes, without having somebody on the phone all the time? There must be solutions out there, not getting too prescriptive here. That's not really hard to build nowadays, is it?
I think the tool sets to build those solutions exist today. There's no science fiction here. This is science reality. So you talked about the reservation system for the people that didn't have to worry about reservations ever. I recently donated a bunch of stuff to local charity here, and had to do that scheduling. You used to be able to just drive up and drop things off. They
Right.
don't want that anymore. And it's difficult for them to do that. They were skeleton staff to begin with. It's even worse now. They're overworked with the things that they have to do now to accept donations and manage that. um, they're not prepared to now let's set up reservation systems and make sure that all the right people are in the queue, and maybe you'd like to notify those people, okay, now is when you pull into the parking lot through
Hmm.
some sort of
Right.
SMS, something. Those things are all available. So again, all of those things can be built. Are they out of the box? In some cases there are some, in a lot of cases there aren't, and I think it's we weren't prepared for this. But I think the old necessity is the mother of invention. We need something. This is our breaking point, but it's there. That technology is truly there. I mean, I can go on to a Google platform, an Amazon platform, an IBM platform, start pulling together some sort of natural language processing and virtual agent technology. I can use various cognitive speech services if I want text to speech, speech to text. I can do various cloud services if I
Mm.
want to do notification outreach. Um, I can pull all these things together um, today and build, I think, very sophisticated applications that solve the needs of these businesses that didn't have to do it before. And I don't think it's all that costly either, because all these things are available on a per drink basis. So, if you have a heavy duty usage, well, you will pay more than the person that, has a lighter usage. But again, that allows the folks that don't have the deep pockets to get in and still take advantage of sophisticated technology that they otherwise could not afford if they bought it on their own. This is all cloud based and it's all there. You just need to put it together.
And it's a funny time to be in because you and I have gone through the whole computer life cycle of the last ages. My father worked at IBM in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, mainframes, banks. Had to downsize physically, actually, the systems from the mainframes to much smaller systems, and then left the business and did other things. I grew up with the first IBM PC in our house back in the first ones coming out in the early 1980s, and then going into communications technologies, like I already said, the screen pops and data being transferred there. But it was hard. It was hard doing that kind of stuff back in the 90s and even the early 2000s. It was proprietary communication access points there. It was hard to get the connectivity or to buy expensive licenses. It wasn't always as reliable there. And then when you went into the internet wasn't what it is obviously today. It didn't have all the services in the clouds there. So fast forward all that to where we are today in 2020. You say we have basically a full toolkit. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what's coming in the next years, what possibilities and ideas we're going to have 10, 15 years from now. But right now, we have almost everything available that we need. You already mentioned text to speech, speech to text, natural language. I mean, this is voodoo stuff 20 years ago for most people.
Oh, yeah.
And it might still be voodoo for a lot of people today. But how does that work? How can you synthesize data? But nowadays, people have, these devices on their desks that they talk to and ask the weather or play the music and tell me a joke. They interact with these things. Many people on a regular basis and don't think about technology. Are you excited about the moment we find ourselves in now, or are you frustrated that it's taken us an episode like this we're going through before we see a real interest arising from it?
Oh, can I answer that with yes? Because I am excited. And I have been frustrated, and I am still frustrated sometimes at the pushback that I receive. If I go out and talk to somebody and I explain this technology and they kind of look at me funny, like, well, we're not ready for that. And I think I will rewind that back to, I think there's some leadership issues there where the leadership is not really defining what the future should be. And there's also the siloed aspects where the business units are separate from the IT infrastructure.
Sure.
And they're not really working together. They have different interests in mind. They have different goals. And that's not productive when you have the same organization and you have different interests. You're not going to have a cohesive solution. So yes, the answer is I'm excited, and yes, I'm frustrated. I am less frustrated than I was probably a year ago, but there's still a level of hesitancy on people's parts. And they'll look at some of the stuff I build and they'll go, oh, wow. And then they don't quite get the next step of how to apply it to their business, or they're maybe afraid of how that will make disruptions that will adversely affect perhaps even them. But the need is there. The need is there. And again, our current times are telling us that we need to think in different ways. The old ways are not solving today's problems.
Although I did read over the weekend that they're seeing an increase of people picking up the telephones and making phone calls again.
Well,
how about that?
And I actually really enjoy that. They're picking up the telephone. They're not picking up the old Ma Bell black phone.
True.
So they are picking up different kinds of devices, and again, back to how they contact those people is different. I don't very often dial a phone number. I touch a screen, or I talk to my phone and I'll say, hey Siri, call home.
Yeah, they work.
I don't know if that got caught on the mic, but yes, it's always listening.
Sure.
It's always listening. But I do believe that, yes, those old things, the voice, the human voice is so important. And perhaps we did forget that. So not only are current times reminding us that some of the things that we're doing weren't working, but maybe that some of the things that we used to do, maybe there's a little more use for them than we had thought just 6 months ago. But again, it's not in the same package. It's packaged very differently than it was before. And again, voice is important, video is important in ways that you made the joke earlier about not wanting to be on camera. I'm on camera all day long now, and I didn't think I would like it, so I'm part of the problem as well. I had to go through my own epiphany that, hey, this isn't so bad. This isn't something to be so scared about. And that has helped. So, even this old dog can learn new tricks.
This old dog. Well, you got that almost Kenny Rogers look coming on over there.
No, I was told by somebody I look more like I should be at a Jimmy Buffett concert.
Now, there I would join you. Barefoot in the sand with a coconut drink in your hand. There you go.
Wasting away in artificial intelligence.
Intelligence. Listen, Andrew, I appreciate you taking a bit of time with me here and just shooting the breeze. I think there's a lot. We're going to learn a lot about this time, the period we're going through, of course, from all kinds of different angles, and whatever comes out of it will come out of it. I am hopeful. I'm always an optimist that things are going to turn out well, although the trough might be deep and long. I've been hoping that companies will take advantages of some technologies. You mentioned it just a moment ago. I do think we spent probably 15 years of putting a lot of technology between people communicating with themselves and with companies here because we had the technology, and it wasn't always focused on designing and building the right experience, right? It delivered the ROI, right? It cost the company the right thing, and I think we've made some mistakes there, right? The touchpad IVR with 7 layers of 47 choices each on paper was a fantastic thought experience or experiment, but in reality it was a horrible thing to put anybody through, right? Yeah. And that's we've learned from that, and now there's a lot of bots that are out there which are also over-engineered, trying to do too many things and confuse. You and I can approach certain technologies and we can get away with, understanding what it's trying to do and maneuver our way through it. But the typical person who might have to interact with it doesn't have that experience, doesn't have that, the interest in even trying to understand what's going on there. Yeah. And I'm hopeful that we put some humanity back into technology. The technology, I think we need a lot of it to come in and help us right now in certain tasks here. And I think some of the things that you work on that we've been watching, and for people who are listening to this podcast, can easily find Andrew Prokop on the web. You'll see the links here below in the show notes. As I said, he blogs enough. You can see him, unfortunately, or fortunately now, often on video through people like me out here. And I appreciate you coming on the podcast here today and being part of my new normal.
Always a pleasure, Andrew. So I hope to do this again at some point.
Listen to that. He's already committed to another video interview with me here. Thank you. It's middle of May 2020 here. We're in the middle of the eye of a hurricane from where I come from. We've got Jimmy Buffett fan on one side. We've got the long-bearded one in Germany here. Thank you for joining the podcast here today, Andrew Prokop, for taking a moment, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I was going to say you're more the ZZ Top look than I am. So
I've got a few more inches to go there. A few more inches.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.